Hey everyone, Sean here, and welcome back to Netflix One Piece Season 2. This is now the spoiler slash extended discussion I wanted to go over. I had a lot of notes, so I might as well kind of just throw it out there in this separate video. So I'm going to go through my notes as we go along here, but don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out, and I do appreciate it. So anyways, yes, One Piece Season 2. As I kind of mentioned in the other video, Smoker was pretty good. I actually forgot to mention this, unfortunately, but the costuming, for the most part, was pretty well done, with some exceptions, I will say. Smoker, I feel like Smoker's jacket is probably like the weakest one, quote unquote, because it just looks too fresh. And I think that was like a lot of the costuming in season one. Things just looked too fresh. Things looked like, cosplayers wearing stuff. You know what I mean? Like it has that sort of that look where it just not look like it has set into the world yet. Is what I always like to kind of describe it as. What I mean is that clothes tend to take in like a lot of the fallout, the environmental effects, including the sun, dust, whatever hits on your clothes, right? And even if you wash them, it sometimes leaves something behind, like that impression. You know what I mean? So, but when you make clothes, that's like the freshest you'll ever see, and that's what a lot of these costumes did come out as, or just cosplaying in general. That's the effect that it sort of had on me, for my eyes, when it came to, or when it comes to like a lot of these live action animes. Honestly, that's like one of the big issues too, just in general. If you don't put enough attention to these clothes or costumes, it's gonna look out very outstandish in a negative way. So that's honestly like one of my pickiest things with my eyes, anyway, because I'm a very visual person. When it comes to that stuff, that's what Smoker's jacket kind of like was running through my mind. They didn't look like it didn't quite had enough time out, right? So that's why it looked very white, and it just looked like, he literally had it made, so it doesn't come off as like, oh, he's been through it or whatever. It more than anything gives it off as that cosplayer vibes. And maybe Smoker is the most cosplayer-ish out of everybody. I know that sounds weird coming out of me, but because even someone like Dalton felt like his costume worked very well for that environment. It made sense somehow. A lot of fur coats, a lot of the winter stuff works because, yes, it already helps with the fur trim. It kind of creates that illusion already, so you can kind of get away with it as quicker as other such environments. That's why, to me anyway, so Zoro's the outfit for Smoker didn't give off that. I know, like it's missing the kanji for justice, absolute justice. Seigi. Seigi is not on the back of his jacket, and that's honestly fine. That's like a minor thing, really, at this point. It's really just how it looks on him, on the actor in any way. Otherwise, Smoker himself was pretty good, given like, that's kind of Smoker-ish, maybe like a younger Smoker at that. But it is what it is, I guess. Tashigi, otherwise, didn't look too bad. I think one of her, what do you call her dress shirts, for the most part look fine, except for the green one. That one probably the most weird one, I guess. But even then, that's like kind of minor at this point. I also noticed during Logtown, the bits where Dragon showed up. Of course, Dragon. Of course, this being a spoiler discussion. Dragon, of course, is Luffy's dad, right? Dragon is the leader of the Revolutionary Army, and of course, that's where he made his first appearance in One Piece. Is Logtown trying to save his son from Smoker, and he used some sort of mysterious power to drive away Smoker, or drive Smoker away from Luffy, pretty much, with wind, basically. So there was always this like early speculation that Dragon has sort of wind-based abilities. He's the airbender essentially, or how Smoker turns into smoke. So Dragon will probably turn into wind at some point. I don't know. Or maybe he has something else. We'll see about what Dragon's powers are, really. It's still yet to be revealed. And I'm the one who has gone far into the manga. Like, I'm pretty much right there in the current state. And they still yet to reveal what his powers are. So, yeah. Anyway, there is one other sore thumb in here too, and that is the reveal of Sabo. Sabo, and honestly, a lot of these things, right? This is where I'm gonna throw out my theory about this live action One Piece, is that the more I see these reveals or just these cameos and such that just come out of nowhere, the more I think this live action series is not gonna get to where Oda is right now. Like, not even probably like where Wano is, or was rather. The key takeaway is that I don't think the live action series is not gonna go too far. But although I want to be wrong, but something tells me that they're like really trying to cram in everything to just show like, oh, what these characters look like this in the live action world, which is cool, but I don't know. Something tells me that they're gonna end it somewhere before at a certain point. So especially if we see someone like Jinbei, I feel like that's going to be like the beginning of the end. Jinbei will probably show up somewhere when the warlords show up, to the meeting, which is like not too far, because that's like right after when Crocodile gets defeated. So maybe sometime after Skypiea, it might be over, but maybe a little farther in where, I don't know, Nico Robin has her backstory revealed. But no, I want to be wrong. I want to see this go as far as it can, but realistically looking at it, it's like, when can they catch up or meet up or match up with Oda's story, right? And seeing how much longer these things take with all the sets they put in, the costumes, the budget, Netflix, right? That's another thing. Netflix, you just never know, because the way Netflix treats these things, they tend to cut off pretty quickly, or abruptly rather. But the counter argument that I have for myself is that they've been really putting their attention to One Piece. And if you compare all the live action stuff they've done for anime, of all the marketing that I've seen, right, the marketing love they've been giving, One Piece wins it by a long shot. Like, I honestly would say that with full chested, because if you look at some like the comparison to Cowboy Bebop to One Piece, even like it's like night and day difference. Because I think at some point Netflix lost confidence with Cowboy Bebop, And look at how long that lasted. Same with like something like Full Metal Alchemist, you know, and stuff like that. Yu Yu Hakusho, that was a one-off telling. That's it. They just went up to the Dark Tournament saga. That's it. But with One Piece, it's strange. You know, they give so much to the marketing. You know, they have all the actors meet up with the voice actors of One Piece, and then like what do you call Luffy's actor meeting up with Oda-san, and just there's so much promotion with these actors making all their appearances in these videos, and Makinyu and this and that. Like, it's just so strange at this point of how much love it gets. Though, that being said, I'm all for it. That's cool. But same time, if you look at all the comparisons to all the other projects, this gets so much love by comparison. And maybe even, like, if you want to compare that to the other Netflix series, some say like Stranger Things. You know, if you want to compare that to One Piece, I think even One Piece wins that of how much love they get, right? But yeah, so that's sorry. So that's kind of like my rant or tangent about that. Is that all these references I've seen is like a message to me that they're really trying to like cram it before the project gets cut off, and that's it, right? Because you know it's kind of a once in a lifetime thing. So it's like the opportunity to see these characters kind of come to life, like literally. So hopefully we see someone like Jinbei making it in there, and of course the skeleton Brook, right? Because we saw the actual live Brook in the live action, like straight up. Laboon's story, you know, it was all well done and stuff, but man, that the changes they did to that story is wild, because they already started telling that side of the story, that side of Laboon. I mean, honestly, I mean, it works very well. And by comparison to the anime side of things. But that being said, still, like, they just straight up revealed Brook. So, I'm like, damn. But yeah, like, Brook, also done, like, wow, they almost already nailed Brook. And he just came in, like, damn, right? They laugh, the music, his love for it, and his personality, like, it's almost Brook come to life. Now I just want to see the skeleton version at this point. Like, dang. So, hats off to that bit. But showing him that early is pretty bold. But again, that kind of adds to my point of how fast they're going to cut this off. Potentially. It's still potential, just a theory of mine. So I don't want to, like, you know, make it sound like, oh, this is going to happen, guys. But it's just it just feels like that. Honestly, it's been making me feel like that for a good bit now. Another note I've wrote it down here was, of course, speaking of Laboon, the gags that were missed, right? Crocus did the thing where, like, he was like staring down at Sanji. Sanji was like, oh shit, what is he gonna do? But then Crocus just sits on his ass on the beach chair and just reads the newspaper, and Sanji's like, do something! Damn it! All those little gags, you know, I miss it from the old days, but with the pacing, how it was doing with the live action, honestly, yeah, it was one of those things. It was for the best. I would have liked to see them attempt it, but I think it's for the best, honestly. It's very Japanese, so them trying to do that or replicate it one-to-one is like, I don't know. I don't know about that. Logtown had a lot of these stories cut too. But then again, a lot of the stories you see in the anime were filler, including Daddy Masterson. I think the cooking competition that Sanji had, there's a lot of filler, honestly, in the anime. But they, which is cool that they expanded upon it. But then again, for the sake of the pacing, yes, it's for the best. But even with like the bar scene with Luffy and the bartender, I think that was also filler. But even then, it felt very organic. So I felt like that. I wish that was filled in at some point, in somewhere in the uh, Log Town. But that all being said, Logtown did a liberty change, right? Took its liberties to do something different. And that's where Bartholomew, Bartholomew, I forget it. I forget his name. Bart. I'm just gonna call him whatever. Bartholomew. Bartholomew. She was up here. Like he starts off as just like a punk, a delinquent, and we have to remember that he was just a nobody at some point, but then he got inspired by Luffy somehow, and then he became a number one Luffy fan. And honestly, that was a pretty appropriate way to do it. Was it perfect? No, but it was pretty ambitious, and I think it was done well enough. It was believable enough to be like, okay, that's how he turned into a fan. I get that now. It was kind of cool to see him interacting with Nami and Luffy, and then of course interacting with Buggy, of course, with the knife and everything. It was pretty cool to see Buggy throwing around the fucking switchblade, or what do you want to call it, the butterfly knife, like that. It was pretty cool, admittedly. So that's what I'm saying. Like these liberties that they took were very creative, and also the other liberties were done for the best. So the other change that I also wanted to note was in Whiskey Peak, where of course a lot of changes happened here, including how Luffy was separated, kinda, and then of course with Zoro's, fight with the 100 agents, and what happened after that. Because in the source material, Luffy was just dead asleep, so he was unaware of what was going on. But then, when he woke up, he saw all the agents dead, or all the people dead, but they all revealed to be agents at some point. But Luffy didn't know that, so that's why when he was fed and all that stuff, he said, like, why did you, hey, who killed all these people? Right? And eventually finds out Zoro did it. And Zoro and Luffy got into that iconic fight in Whiskey Peak. Because that was one of the only times we got to see Luffy versus Zoro. That being cut out was honestly, like, that was like the quote unquote worst cut. But again, done for the best because of the pacing, But then again, who wouldn't want to see Luffy fight Zoro, just to kind of see with their fighting skills and such, or where they're at. But given like the tone, the context, the pacing, and everything, again, it was kind of for the best, but quite different. Other changes included how Vivi's reveal was, what happened right after that, the sacrifice that Igaram took. Is Igaram actually dead? We don't know. We'll see. We'll see about that. Then, like, so honestly, yeah, because of that, we don't get to see Igaram dress up in drag as Vivi as a distraction. Very Japanese nuance, because the dolls and everything. So that was kind of for the best-ish. Again, that's kind of like the key word here. And then it kind of like went into the whole Nico Robin, or excuse me, Miss All Sunday part of her sitting on the ship and everything. Pretty different, but still the end result was kind of the same. So I guess that didn't matter. But one of the other significant change was the absence of Karu. Karu is supposed to be this companion that Vivi has been around with for such a long time. You know, having to stick with each other thick and thin. And Karu was very present during the source material of Whiskey Peak. You know, kind of showing off like the sort of goofy side of Miss Wednesday, and really more on the goofy side of these agents, you know, for the comedic effect, when the live action tends to be a little more on the serious side, which I get, okay. They're supposed to be like a little more grim. But that could also kind of reveal of like how, you know, Miss Wednesday is not so much of who you think she is. Kind of another giveaway to the audience of who Miss Wednesday really is, thanks to Karu. But then again, you know, that's coming from me who already watched all of that anyway. So, but having Karu being absent does feel a little weird. And it kind of takes away from how these two are just like irreplaceable, kind of like they're such best friendsy kind of thing. It's like Ash and Pikachu, right? That's like if Pikachu showed up way later on and Ash is just kind of on his own for a long time. That's kind of what it feels like here. But if you think about it, CGI, budget, maybe that's, again, probably for the best. But they were able to get around that rather creatively for the most part. They were able to make it work. I mean, it's not like Kaoru is like this pivotal character by any means, sure. But again, it also takes away a little bit of, or not even a little bit, like quite a bit of the bond you feel between Vivi and Kaoru, especially with what Kaoru does later on during Alabasta. But I guess you'll just have to buy it by season 3. Like, you just kind of just expect to, you know, instantly feel the bond between Kaoru and Vivi. But whatever. That was like the other change I've noticed. Miss Monday was absent from trying to hold off the Frontier agents for Vivi, right? Because that's what she did in the source material. She was the one along with Mr. Nine. Though, that being said, Mr. Nine did still have the same end result. Even did the whole bye-bye baby thing. But not to Vivi, unfortunately. So you don't really get to see Mr. Nine and Vivi interact with each other any further. Other than, hey, we're partners, all that stuff. So they had each other's backs to the very end, and probably like one of the more loyal partnerships within Baroque works. And maybe that's why, like, these were lower ranked agents because of how friendly they were to each other, funny enough. Whereas the higher up you go, the more treacherous these partners could be. But then again, you've come to find out not really, because I think even Mr. Four and Miss Christmas, or Miss Merry Christmas, not quite treacherous towards each other. They actually work well together. Even Miss Doublefinger is pretty respectable towards Mr. One, you know. Although, I mean, it's not like they were like in love with each other or anything like that. It's, although funny enough, stuff happens with Miss Monday and Mr. Nine at one point. Anywho, though, the whole point though is that there's a lot of changes that happen with Whiskey Peak, and I think though they were still told well enough at least. And they creatively made it work. When it comes to heading towards what was it? The Little Garden. Also, some noticeable changes too, but one of the minor ones was that yes, we get to see Mr. Five's personal ship. You know, in One Piece, it's kind of cool to see each major character's ships because they're kind of like all personalized to the character's design. So it's kind of funny to see Mr. Five's ship in this one because you get to see the glasses. Although honestly though, if you look far away, it kind of looks like the Flamingo ship. I'm not gonna lie. That's what I thought at first. I'm like, wait a minute, you know? I think like literally cramming in all these other characters already. No, it was Mr. Five's ship. Although we're gonna see Doflamingo not far from now, honestly, it feels like, which is funny. But anyway, let me see though. Yeah, when it comes to the Giants were great. Let me just say that again. The scaling was done great. My only complaint there, which I also forgot to mention, but that's kind of like part of my nitpicking thing, was that the Giants' fights felt like they could have had a little more weight. Maybe they could have done a little more slow motion to make it feel like they're giants, like they're just moving really slow and boom. Kind of like how the Jaegers fight each other, or Jaegers fight the kaiju, or Godzilla fights anybody really, or hell, fucking the Megazord goes through the explosion and everything. Like makes it feel like they're giant. It really gives them the scale. But yes, they do the low angle shots and everything, and for the most part, it's serviceable as a giant fight. It could have been a little better though. Could have been a little better if I'm going to be honest. The big change though with the Giants fight, to be said, was one, they only did one fight, again for the best. But two, the one who gets sort of poisoned, so to say, was Brogy instead of Dory. Dory got the poison or explosion or whatever in the source material. Brogy got it here in the live action, so it looked quite different, and therefore Dory was the one who stabs Brogy, while Dory got the stabbing in the source material. So kind of different. It's really still the same-ish, to be honest. Could have been interchangeable, I guess. Which maybe that's something they were trying to show here. But, I guess maybe they're just trying to do it just for the sake of being different. Then, Dory gets trapped by the candle wax thing in the cave while, whatchamacall, Brogy in the source material got beat up by the Frontier agents, got blown up, and then he gets nailed to the ground by the candle wax from Mr. 3. And speaking of Mr. 3, I've got to kind of talk about him, but he was done pretty well. My only gripe or notice is that when he did the candles, his head never lit up. And it's not like, see that, it's not like putting a fire on that point isn't that difficult. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't do that part. Maybe they forgot, honestly. I don't know. But I don't think, maybe it just didn't look good enough at the time. Maybe it just didn't get it well enough in time in the editing room. Maybe that's what happened. So they just kind of just like said, fuck it. But otherwise, yeah, he still makes candles. Nothing too different from him other than just being super pale. And the fight between him and Luffy could have been a little better. Like, yes, they still did a lot of the key things. Like, Mr. 3 being a coward. He has a lot of these figures throughout the forest or the jungle, excuse me. But they never had the, the wax champion. The armor that he had, they didn't bother with that, I guess, because maybe budget reasons or just like time constraints. I don't know. And yeah, he just goes down in one hit. It just like boom, that's it. That's all we're gonna get. Another change though was the fight between Mr. Five and Miss Wednesday. They actually were able to make it really cool by extending the fights between Wednesday and no, excuse me, Valentine. Excuse me, Valentine versus Vivi and Nami. That was really cool. That they were like doing all this choreography stuff to show that Valentine can still put up a fight, not just get her ass hit one hit and that's it in the anime. Same with Zoro. Um, but oh yeah, and then Usopp had that big moment on Little Garden, so it was really cool to see Usopp getting it into action. Which again, I forgot to really mention that. The other bit I wanted to mention though, I mean, okay, so the fight was a little different. Mr. Five had an extended fight also with Zoro. I honestly, okay, honestly, I thought they were not gonna do the big candle thing, the cake, right, with Mrs. Three's thing, and they were able to actually make that work too, like the how it spins, it rains down wax, and then they turn hard and all that stuff, turn into wax figures slowly, and they were able to really like add in the practical sides and the CGI sides to that too. So that's where the blend of that really made things work in the non-spoiler review. So yeah, they did the whole like Zoro doing the pose, which is funny. Him trying to cut his legs off, but not really because yeah, he gets stopped. It still kind of played the same notes, which is fine. All the important bits were just they're still there. My thing with Miss Golden Week was that's where my nitpickiness still comes up too. They made her into this like gothic girl, even though she's not wearing gothic makeup. She had these like weird dolls, so I was like, oh, okay. So they're just trying to like really play into the horror thing, but I guess because her powers are a little dark, I guess, because yeah, she's manipulating these emotions and such. They're really trying to play up the whole psychological thriller thing with her. So I was like, okay, I don't know about that, but whatever. I think the dolls were a little much. I think that was just so unnecessary to me. But for the most part, yes, it is Miss Golden Week. But at the same time, they made her into this like, oh, I like playing my dolls kind of character. Where in the source material, not so much. She just likes eating senbei. She likes doing art, I think. She just likes to lounge around. That's her thing. That's her character. And she likes to be laxed. She's not this like horror or like borderline horror, like psycho thriller kind of character. It was just a little weird, but okay. If that's how they want to do it, then okay. It's not like she's gonna make an appearance anymore, but yeah. More on the agents. They were able to actually do the Unluckies pretty well. Miss Friday, and what was it? Miss Friday, and then Mrs. 13. Excuse me, Mrs. 13, Miss Friday, the Unluckies. They were pretty much 1-1. I mean, they well, at least with Mr. 13, I think it was, put up a better fight, and with the claws and everything, kind of fucked up Sanji quite a bit. Although I think it was like assumingly Miss Friday, the bird. Hopefully, I'm not getting that mixed up, but whatever. The Condor got the neck snapped, just like in the source material. So that's whatever. That's fine. But the otter was quite vicious in this one, and the whole like bit with Sanji talking to Mrs. Zero, also pretty well done. Hit all the notes. Although shitty cafe, it's supposed to be shitty cafe, but shitty restaurant. I don't know. For the most part, same thing. Whatever. And then you get to see Mrs. Zero like in the shadows and such. Cool. Nice. Okay. That's pretty much it. Other than, yes, they did a bit with Zoro and Sanji trying to get the dinosaur hunting game thing. Except that they were hunting who gets the biggest game, not so much who kills one first. Still the same note, but still a little different. Similar note, kind of different. Oh yes, and the Giants do though mention Nika, the sun god. And for those who are really deep into the source material, you know where that's going. Because that's a very big hint for our hero. This Nika, the sun god, that's what they kind of mention a lot. And I think even they made a song around that, so that's okay, pretty interesting. But yeah, so let me see. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, Mrs. Zero even had the laugh, so I was like, oh wow, they actually attempted that too, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, so Usopp, I did mention it earlier, but Usopp had its big moment. Very nicely done, honestly. Like, they made him to this, like, yeah, I'm a coward, but I will put up the courage kind of, like, character. And they did that pretty beautifully here. Him trying to put up a fight until whatever, and then he even creatively freed his friends by having Valentine punch his face, but at the same time, crack the candle stuff. Although, yeah, you know, cartoony-ish when everything just cracks, but still, the point is still there, you know. So pretty cool, pretty nicely done with Usopp. They made him to this nice character in here. Unlike maybe in the source material, I do understand where people don't like the old Usopp, OG Usopp, because his cowardliness is way stronger. From what I can remember anyway. Very prominent. To the point where it even like kind of honestly puts people into danger, you know? So at least here is like it works for this Usopp. But yeah, I also made a note here with the climactic fight. It was a little hasty, especially with Mr. 3 Luffy. I already mentioned that. I just wish there was a little more to it. But again, given with the pacing, it is what it is. Now, the important set piece for the end of Little Garden, though, is the whole thing with the two giants. Yes, after Brogy comes back to life, they hugged it out. They're like, yeah, hey, you know, sail straight ahead. There's gonna be a big monster, but don't worry about it. Pretty much. They did the whole like they even say the attack name, which is, you know, Hakoku, and then added sovereignty, because Hakoku is kind of like what it means, kind of. But yeah, in the localization version, they call it Hakoku sovereignty. All right, fine, that works. But it was a little different because it's supposed to help launch the ship through the giant goldfish rather than just put a hole through the giant goldfish. It's like it's okay. It's a little weird. The order of it is a little wrong, because otherwise, like, okay, they could have just gone around at this point instead of like going through it, because the whole point is you're supposed to keep going. Hakoku push the ship, and then the force doesn't somehow break the ship, but you know, whatever. drives the ship through the goldfish along with the attack, and then they're off, right? But okay, still they sail through fine, It's a little different, but all right, it is what it is. But now this is where the liberties come in too. They did have a little extra scene with Valentine in Mr. 3. Valentine was gonna tell the whole truth and blame it on Mr. 3 because Mr. 3 was the one that was like trying to be all artistic, take things slow. Even Mr. Zero knew about that, as pointed out. But obviously, Mr. 3, all fucked up in the process too. He tries to shut up Valentine with the wax. That was like honestly pretty graphic, like with her screaming and everything. So that was pretty cool. I like that little extra little bit. Okay, so that's like all like fucking like episodes 1 through 4-ish for season 2. By the way. So episode 5, I did have a couple of notes here. Funny enough, Sanji doesn't smoke often, but he did smoke here. And I kind of felt like, yeah, okay, he smokes when it kind of honestly calls for it. He just doesn't chain smoke. But when it comes to like those sort of stressful moments or key moments, that's where he pulls out the cigarette and smokes. That's fine. Yes, it's very Sanji of him pulling out the cigarette every fucking second as a chain smoker, but hey, at least he pulls out a cigarette here and there. That's fine. One of the key notes though from episode 5 that I didn't write down was that Wapol does make an appearance, but in a rather different way, because he's like one of the sponsors for Baroque Works. He gives financial support, and he was hoping in something in return, and that's where Miss All Sunday comes in with a devil fruit, and that's supposedly how Wapol got his devil fruit powers. And also the fact that he was connected with Baroque Works was in some way. That's how he got his Munch Munch fruit, which that turns him into a factory, honestly. And speaking of which, that gets also very creative liberties, but that'll be for later on. Now, when it comes to episodes 6 through 7, Mary Joyce does get referenced here because it really tries to like cram in everything into here just so you can see it. Although yes, they did. Yeah, although yes, they did make. They do have a flashback scene even back in the source material, so I guess that works too. Wapol does his thing. Even you see a lot of the leaders in detail, including Hamburger and all those like stereotypical fucking leaders and everything. It's kind of funny to see, but yeah, that's what happens. You see King Cobra, it's kind of cool. You see Igaram in the past, very nice as well. Although you don't see, I don't know if what's his face, Pell and Chaka made an appearance here or during that scene. I forget. They might have been at the palace back at that moment, but they'll probably they'll definitely make an appearance in the season 3 for sure. So whatever. And then of course you see Vivi as a young little girl, whatever, right? But then again, it's hard to say when exactly that scene came in, but whatever. It still works. We do also have an extra scene thrown into here. So we're at this like random base, and you see the Marines cut up. Initially, not Mrs. Smoker thought, oh, it's the Straw Hats. And then, I'm like, oh boy, maybe that's where he gets extra motivated to go after Straw Hat and such. Now, they soon find out, along with Tashigi, of course, that it is the work of Baroque works. And we even have the pleasure of seeing not only Mr. 11, who made an appearance in the source material, but the brand new appearance of Miss Thursday. Because I think Miss Thursday was missing altogether from the source material. So they made Miss Thursday into another baseball fanatic, because that's Mr. 4. He's the fourth hitter. That's his theme. Whereas Miss Thursday is just the pitcher, I guess. It's kind of weird that there's these parallels, I guess. But anyway, she throws balls real good. Now, that the final sequence, the fight itself was kind of interesting. It was cool, but the last part of that fight was like, it was a little weird. Like, okay, so Miss, God damn it, I keep trying to call him Mr. Smoker. Smoker does his smoking thing, but then it's like he goes back to his normal form and just hits it like a bat. So I was like, what was the point of that? Was it just to distract her, to blind her? I was a little confused by that. Otherwise, that literally could have been, whiteout, right? That's one of Smoker's moves, and then just, I don't know, capture her, arrest her, whatever. But instead, he hits it and then kills her with her own ball, I guess, her own pitch. Okay, with a fireball. I think it burned through her or burned through her throat. I forget where she was hit, but I think she's dead. She's pretty dead. Whereas 11, I think, is out of commission, so they're trying to still get information out of him. Very much what was happening in the source material. And then if you know what happens in the source material with Mr. 11, yeah, you know. If you know, you know. Okay, so this is where, of course, Nami got sick, right? By the tick from Little Garden, as revealed in the thing later on. So they went to Drum Island, of course. They got their introduction with the people of Drum Island. Very much similar yet different way, but still same end result. And this is where it gets a little different once again, because they, that giant lady, they like bow to, because they think it's the bowing bear, or whatever you call it, like the bear who hikes, the hiking bear. You're supposed to bow to it. That never happened, unfortunately. They do make a reference in the the credits with the picture, but other than that, they never did that. So it's like, okay, well, I wish they at least attempted to bow to the lady, because the lady is supposed to look like the bear, quote unquote, because she's just so big. But whatever. It's like a minor gag from Oda. Just the little things. Anyways, speaking of liberties, though, so it was Luffy and Sanji that just went straight up to the mountain. They never went through the snowy sort of fields. So therefore, they never went and encountered the bunnies, right? I think they were called like the lapises or whatever. I forget their names, but the giant bunnies, they never came across them, unfortunately. So we have no bunnies. We have no CGI giant bunnies or anything like that. Because that was like a kind of a side story of itself. They even like tried to help fight against Wapol and his little horde, or whatever you call them, little crew. And so that never happened. So instead, they go straight up the mountain. It was still largely the same, except Sanji was climbing most of the way, whereas Luffy was still holding Nami. And then they still had that part where he's like he slips and he just, the fingers, man. Like the anime that just did it so fucking painfully, dude. I can relive the memory of that scene. It was just so painful to watch, man. I seen as a kid or as a teenager, I'm like, oh my god, dude, that haunts me even to this day. And they still kind of did it. It was like, all right, they did it. The fact that they did it is like, all right, but it wasn't as graphic, like, but you can see his fingers by the end of it. The only big difference too is that Sanji then almost gets his hand or gets his ass fucking handed to the mountain, but Luffy then grabs Sanji with his mouth after stretching and then throws him into the top rather than him having to carry Sanji and Nami. So it's like very difficult, but again, for the pacing, okay, whatever. He still gets to the top. That's, the end result's still the same-ish. But meanwhile, there also are these little extra scenes where you get to kind of like really see characters kind of unfold more, including Usopp. They're really like unfolding Usopp in such a nice way. Zoro was like really questioning himself, like, hey, I should have gone instead, blah blah blah. Sanji this, Sanji that, and Usopp is like, dude, stop moping, do something, right? Do something to kind of distract yourself. And Zoro was like, whoa, oh, okay, shit. All right, I'll do it. Could have been nice about it, but all right, I get your point. And so he goes to Dalton, be like the extra eyes as a guard. Cool. Usopp, he's trying to like fix up something. Later on, you get to find out it's the arrow with the spool. But he gets to have a talk with BB, with BB, like, yeah, he's like, man, I wish I could do something. I wish I could do something. And then Usopp basically being like, hey, don't try to pin all this to yourself. You have friends. Rely on them, right? And it starts with the simple stuff. Hey, can you hand me that wrench? Boom. There you go. It's nice to be counted on, right? To be relied on, to help others, to bounce off each other, right? That kind of thing. Pretty nice. Maybe a little overly simplistic with the wrench, but it still works, I think, right? The point is still got across. The Kureha stuff, Chopper, great. Dr. Hairlook, great. That's all I can really say. Very well done scenes, the emotions, the acting and everything. Chopper, everything, that whole storytelling was great. With the pace and everything. To the point, nails all the notes of Hairlook. He's this quack, but he's trying to cure the entire country in his own way. Great. Absolutely wonderful. Especially with that actor. Very commendable as Hairlook. By this point, episode 8, this is the last one. This is where it gets pretty creative because Wapol in the source material never did this other than with Marimo and Chess, which I think, by the way, I don't think they ever even had their like intros or whatever, the bounty posters, none of that. Wapol ate them up and spat them out, or opened the door rather, and have them combine. Which, is that a permanent thing? Maybe not. But he did that, but in a rather kind of a gritty way, because he ate all his soldiers and he spat them out, and whatever he also ate, the soldiers got. So there's like all these cannons and weapons, all these like spikes, and it was kind of like dark. It almost gave me the vibes of like the Urukai when they were like about to fight in the two towers, that whole scene. It kind of had that same gritty vibe to it. It literally, it was at night. If it was at night, it literally would have been one to one almost. But yeah, like that liberty being taken like that, it was pretty cool. Like, honestly, such a creative way to have everybody involved, including Zoro and Usopp, and rather than just Sanji and Chopper or whatever. Nice way to include everybody, and they have a creative way to show off Wapple's powers, and it still makes sense. You know, albeit he got it from Baroque works and such. And then of course we even have a little extra scene with Vivi and Miss All Sunday once again, right? More extra stuff. Nice. Speaking of extra scenes, we even have a moment with Sanji and Nami. Again, another liberty to be taken, because Sanji here mentions his mom. Never did that in the source material. Again, another character who shows up or gets reference from far into the future, right? Sanji's mom never mentioned until it was like the whole cake arc, I think it was, right? Like, never ever mentioned until then. But here we are. Sanji talking about his mom, pretty much narrating the story. Like, you can kind of like replay it if you watch the anime, about how his cooking started with his mom, because he wanted to give his mom all these dishes or whatever. He wanted to help his mom as much as he could. But yeah, so that it was a very touching moment. Both had tears shedding and everything. Yeah. Very much a nice little bonding moment. Nice bonding moments between certain characters, like including Usopp, Zoro, Vivi, and now you have Sanji, Nami in this moment at least. Other than that, fights between Chas, Marimo, Sanji, and Chopper, pretty nice. Everybody was involved. Had their equal footing ish. And then you have, of course, Wapple versus Luffy. And then even Vivi got involved with that. So again, pretty nice. You get to also see kind of how Luffy and Vivi kind of bond, which I did kind of forget to mention that also happened with Little Garden, when Luffy was giving Vivi a ride on the top of the Brontosaurus or whatever. Also nice. Unfortunately, though, we do miss out on the form that Wapple takes. He has like a slim version of himself when he eats himself, which is weird. But yeah, but the mouth thing was kind of cool, of how they did it. And then, although unfortunately, that being said, how he is defeated is a little different. But I mean, at least, but although that a lot of this back and forth, at least it was done with Sanji and Luffy's team up attack thing with the leg and the gum power thing. I forget what it was called specifically, but whatever. It's like assault, gum assault, I think it was. But anyway, that's like the localized version, I think, of it. But that was how they defeat Wapple. Whereas Wapple was on top of the thing. He wanted to fire a cannon or whatever you call it. But it was not functional because it was occupied as a nest with the birds or whatever. So they essentially fucked him over. And then, he made that face like, oh. And then he gets bazookaed out to the sky. Here, he gets tackled by Luffy and breaks out of the window. That's essentially how it goes. It is what it is. So we do miss out, unfortunately, on Chopper's Rumble Ball. That's where he actually debuted his powers, in a way. But I guess they're saving that for Alabasta. That's the choice they made, So we do miss out on the arm point, and then the Rokte Roseo attack with, and even the scope thing, he does kind of funny. Or is it like this? Whatever. And then doing that thing to Waffle, yes, he did that, but we don't get to see it. Um, and that's pretty much it. Like other than back in the village, they're fighting off the minions. Kureha does get involved with the gun or shotgun, or whatever you want to call it. And then even Dalton was able to get the piece of the action with his bison powers. So nice. Everybody was involved pretty much. Even Kureha, Dalton, everybody's in action. Even with the arrows, he was still able to fight pretty much. So that was pretty much it. They set off to Alabasta. Now for reals, they get to party. Chopper had his moment with the sakura petals now, and then he looks up. Kureha did the thing. Very kind of a touching moment. How they said their goodbyes, quote unquote. Chopper cried, but then Zoro actually, damn, like this was like a bit of extra, but I like this bit, especially because this is Zoro. Goes up to Chopper, he picks him up, rides him on his shoulders, like, hey man, enjoy the view, enjoy the sight of the sakura tree, quote unquote. Like I get it, you're crying, you're just having this moment, but open your eyes, look at it, because that's you're gonna miss it. And he's like kind of like the big brother to Chopper already, so it's pretty cool. So yeah. Other than that, they do the party thing. Luffy does the fucking little chopstick with the mouth cat gag thing. Chopper like was about to do it, and then they even like his friends were trying to do like the knife thing. It's just pretty funny. And then like the very last thing, of course, Mrs. Zero reveals the face, and I also noticed and realized that it's his manga color scheme because he has the white sleeves, whereas in the anime he had orange sleeves for some reason. I mean, I think at the time, admittedly, I thought it worked better, but I think over time it's supposed to be more like a vest with the orange vest, white sleeve, white dress shirt with the orange vest. But I don't know, the coloring at the time was a little weird. Maybe that's why they made that change. So that's why like my first impression kind of like was a little discombobulated with Crocodile's initial outfit and everything. But whatever. So they went with the manga one. White sleeves, fine. At least they have the gold hook right. It's a nice size. I love the look. John Maggio is already like nailing the laugh and nuance and everything. The voice even like kind of sounds like the one in the English dub, which works. All right, cool. The nuances is actually a lot more present than I would expect. So cool. So yep, that's pretty much it on that. Like that's season 2. All the little discussions, little notes I wanted to like make and everything. Oh yeah, the only other like thing I also noticed from season 1, I forgot to mention here, are the close-ups. They love those close-up shots still. But at this point, it's kind of minor, but it's still funny that they like still do it. It's like, it's like kind of like a Netflix signature almost. They love those close-up shots for some reason. Like it's the same exact thing was happening in Cowboy Bebop. Funny enough. Other than that, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. So yeah, that's kind of like this is kind of like one of the more like long discussion videos I wanted to at least just get it out there because that's how I am with this particular season anyway. I can go on, but that's essentially the notes I have. on my notepad that I wrote down, and thank God I didn't like throw that into the review video, because yeah, I tried to like condense it, mention all the important bits, but yeah, all around smashing hit by comparison to season 1. Very nice improvement. Hopefully season 3, since it's all Alabasta, they do it justice, because I love Alabasta. It's my favorite arc still, because it's such a important one to me in terms of like Luffy and his crew, because Mrs. Zero is like still my favorite villain up to this point, because he is the one who gave Luffy the wake-up call. He is the one to tell him, this is the Grand Line, this is who you're facing. He is the one who gave him like that very first like devastating loss or defeat to Luffy. The hook and everything, that iconic scene with the hook with Luffy stuck on there, that shit is in my head forever, man. Like, I was like, damn. So hopefully they do that justice. And that'll be for us to see probably next year. So, oh boy. Waiting for a big one, because it's all Alabasta. And maybe in season 4 it's probably all Skypiea, a little bit of Jaya, but Jaya's like kind of like, it might as well be a part of Skypiea anyway. Jaya's like pretty short, and then most of it Skypiea, and then probably season 5 could be Water 7 and Enies Lobby in one, and then beyond that I don't know. Anyways, that's all I got. Thanks. Like and subscribe, and if you want to like comment more on the discussion with season 2, go right ahead in the comment section. Love to read them. Really appreciate you guys for your time, and that's all I got for season 2 One Piece. Cool stuff. And now I'm fully on board with the live action One Piece for reals. Season 1 pretty rough, but season 2 nice. All right. Thanks, and hope to see you all in the next one. Sean out.